Welcome to Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. This is not your typical financial radio show. As a licensed CPA, insurance agent, and investment advisory representative, Chris coaches his clients on a holistic view of financial well-being with an objective of providing a complete financial strategy to fund life's goals. Chris is here to guide you down the path to the financial serenity you deserve. Now, here's Chris Cooper.
All right, folks. Good morning. Happy Labor Day weekend. I cannot believe August is already about to end. School's back in session, and I am sitting here with a gentleman that I've spent a lot of time running around in the communities with over the years, and that is Scott Kolbe of Kolbeco. How are you, Scott?
I am great. You know, it's hard to believe summer is basically wrapping up.
Right? Isn't that weird? Time flies. At some point in time, I don't know what age we get where it just kind of happens, but we're there, bud.
Yeah, it goes fast. Each year it's faster and faster.
Right. And I think our kids are starting to get to that point too, you know?
Yeah.
So the cool thing is, and I do mean this literally, is that the weather is going to start being cooler. And as our fellow runner, cyclist, triathlete, these are kind of good temperatures for us.
Yes, this is the time of year where you just start getting excited because it's bearing lots of sweat.
Yeah. So I know you've been in the triathlon scene for quite some time, and it's always a great atmosphere. It brings in some really unique individuals, and
when people say they don't have time for something, just follow a triathlete because they're squeezing it all in from 4 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night.
Well, I think you're part of that community yourself there. So when you say they, I think you are included in the they as well.
Yeah, it's a lot of time, but they make it all work.
It is, and it's also a lot of fun too, because you do get that ability to have a little bit of a release too. You know, a little bit of a break. Get out there and do something good for yourself.
Yep. And when you're out on a run, you have some of the best conversations. I remember during COVID talking with some fellow entrepreneurs about just the challenges, the fears, all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Where do we go next? And it's nice to have that support network.
Well, and it's amazing for those folks that are non-runners out there that think that to get into running, you have to you can't talk while you're running. You can't have conversations while you're running. That means you're running wrong. Right?
Exactly. It's actually that spot where you can have a conversation and it doesn't really matter what your pace is. So, yeah, absolutely.
And that can be with somebody that's a lot faster than you or somebody that is right there at your pace. You can run at different levels, different paces. I don't care if you run a 6-minute mile or a 12-minute mile. Everyone that runs a 6-minute mile runs at maybe not a 12-minute mile, but
yeah, absolutely. They run slow runs, and that's the key.
Yeah.
It's the key with so many things in life. You go hard a small percentage of the time, and then you just stay consistent and cruise control the rest of the time.
Absolutely. Now, talk a little bit about Kolbeco and what Kolbeco does, because that really is a perfect avenue to really some of that thing you just mentioned about taking some time.
So we started as a marketing communications firm, and we really work with a lot of more advanced industries, helping people in the financial services sector, the automation technology sector, the medical technology sector. Things are typically a little complex, and figuring out how to consistently deliver their message to change how people perceive their industry. A lot of them are in some sort of change and a growth mode, or have threats coming at them, and they're just trying to push through it and make sure that they're on the right path.
And that's about branding. Right? Getting the message out, because ultimately as business owners, when we think about things, you mentioned entrepreneurship earlier, right? People that think they want to go and start their own business, I don't care what your business is. If your consumer doesn't know you exist or doesn't know what you do, it doesn't matter. It's right.
Absolutely. I think that I work with a number of very successful businesses, and I've had clients on the Inc. 5000 fastest growing list year after year. And I will tell you that those that are super consistent don't lose sight. And as much as they may get bored with the message over and over and over, the consumer doesn't. And they also have a vision oftentimes 3, 5, 10 years down the road of where they're going to go.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to take some chances and make mistakes. And they laugh about some of those mistakes, but they are consistent as can be.
Well, you got to learn, right? And that's mistakes. I mean, that's the one thing that always happens when you fall. You always get back up, and it might take you a little bit longer, but you can get back up.
Absolutely. Some of the risk that they're willing to take, I mean, they're calculated risk, but And some of them just don't have big wins, but other things have been huge wins. I think getting a client back in the day when the Today Show was a big thing, like suddenly all those places they were trying to get attention in, all of a sudden their phones were filled up, and next thing you know, their business became going from a garage to growing into a multi-million-dollar business.
And that's got to be pretty fun having those conversations. And I'm fortunate enough I get to have a lot of unique conversations with business owners in the area as well. And listening to those stories, the success stories, and some of the challenges that come up, it never gets old. Every conversation is a little different.
Yeah. And I think coming in and being able to have the vision and kind of temper your fears so you're not expressing it to your team and your audience, but also being realistic of, hey, I need your help to get us there.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. Now, a lot of it is really is it hard to get people to have that brand understanding and get that vision out there? Or do most people kind of go, you know what, I know who I am and here's what I want to kind of be?
Some people, it's hard because they're always, the challenge with an entrepreneur is they're always looking for something new and always wanting to change. And it's that balance, because there are little nuances and modifying things along the way because something might not be quite right. But I've also worked with large companies that are publicly traded, and the CEOs like, here's where we're going to be in 5 years. And they sure get there by the end. And I'm like, that's a big lift, but they really encourage and come in and keep the team going and keep those messages super consistent.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot going on in the marketing industry right now. I mean, it's changed quite a bit. I mean, when you started your company, was social media really a thing?
It wasn't a thing at all. I came from the .com era. I worked in the software industry originally. And, actually, my wife worked for a manufacturing company that got acquired, and it was kind of becoming uncertain what her future was going to be and the entire company's future was going to be. So she started doing consulting, and we were taking our dog for a walk, and she's like, well, I just landed my first client on day one, so I got to come up with a name. And that was literally while we were walking the dog, came up with a name.
Nice.
And then as we got rolling, it was like, okay, like, how do we keep growing this thing, and how do we make that? But I was working in the software industry, and I was going to switch and work for Microsoft or go for this business. And the recruiter I'd gotten a job offer from Microsoft, and I said, I'm thinking about going into this marketing business with my wife. And he said, I have one piece of advice for you if you want to be successful. I was like, great, tell me what it is. He goes, if you go into business for yourself, just think this is the only way you can put food on the table for your family and you'll succeed. He goes, if you ever look over your shoulder at another job, you will fail. Yeah.
It's real hard to just dip your toe in the water and try it out because you always think, you know what, I have a backup plan. And if the second you have a backup plan, you're not committed.
Mm-hmm. And I listen to that, but I'm also like, well, I don't know. And then,
but looking back, you recognize it.
And I said,
it was a pivotal moment.
I said, I need a sign. And my wife and I went for another walk with the dog, and we came back, and I went to boot up my computer, and Microsoft operating system crashed on my computer.
Oh, wow.
And my wife said, I think that's your sign. And I still sat there and said, well, maybe. And and then she reinforced that and said, there was your sign. And that's when we took the leap. And I always say, bet the farm, and off to the races we went.
That's amazing. And now, how many years later?
We started, we are at 26 years. So
26 years. And it was just you and your wife.
Yep.
And now you've got a whole team.
Yeah. Actually, we have a guy that was on our team that started. We were working out of our house. He's still with us. He left for a while, but he's back. Awesome. And he came back during COVID, and his wife is an optometrist, and they moved back to their hometown in Wisconsin. Okay. And then the world changed, and, video conferencing and everything came back. And he says, I want to come back. Can I come back? And it's really awesome to have him back. So.
Well, there you go. And that's, you mentioned the COVID did a lot of things to change really, but life and a lot of things in various industries, but it made it very easy for us to connect from multiple different, geographical areas.
Oh, absolutely. We've got team all over the place now. Yeah. And we weren't able to do that before. And we had people that, we worked with on projects, but we just couldn't connect very easily. And I remember us I remember when that all happened. Ironically, I had COVID the week before it was announced. And I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to get this whole video conferencing thing working with our team. And as I'm laying in bed, and somehow we figured it out and made it work. So,
well, as an entrepreneur who helps entrepreneurs, you understand that, who's going to figure it out? You are. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
So, which is a blessing and a curse at times.
Yeah. And, like some of our clients were still figuring it out, and they were all going, it was a very fearful time. They were trying to figure out what to do, where their markets are. Some of them were closed.
Yeah.
Some they had no employees in their office, and like, what does this look like for the future?
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll say, because I've been through, the 08, 09, and I've looked at like this past thing, like during COVID, and we've had other downturns, is those that just stay consistent, even if they pulled back a little bit, but don't abandon ship, come out even stronger on the back end. Those that just abandon everything and quit doing work, they're the ones that implode and close.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was a tough time for a lot of small businesses as well. It was just you have to adapt, and you have to change with the times in addition. So, so social media was obviously definitely not there 26 years ago. So has that really revolutionized and really changed a lot of what probably not your core approach though. I have a feeling that stays consistent.
Yeah, the messaging is always the same. Well, it might be displayed differently, and you might not be able to get people's attention as much. But like social media in the beginning, when it came out, nobody even thought of using it as an ad campaign or targeting or anything like that. And you relied on TV and like traditional radio for a lot of attention.
And print, right?
And print, absolutely. Like the Post-Dispatch and Business Journal were much larger back then. I remember like the Post-Dispatch, like their number of business writers was humongous. And it's just a handful of people today. And if you showed up in an article in the Post-Dispatch, like your website, your phones would be ringing off the hook. And it's paywalls and things like that today. So it's a lot harder to get that stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to adapt with those kind of things as well. And so social media becomes important, right? Do you think that every company needs to have some type of a social media presence?
I think almost everybody does. And I think almost everybody, and we've been saying this really probably for 10 years, is you have to think of yourself as a media outlet. You're a good example of that, of like, okay, you're getting this message out and you're controlling the platform, and then you just got to make sure people hear it. But you have to view yourself as a media outlet, because there's not the venues you can go to like there used to be. Yeah.
Well, and I love doing my radio show. That's part of it. You have to enjoy. Marketing cannot be something as a business owner that is, if it's not authentic, your audience knows. And because you have to be you, because that's at the end of the day, when you have a service, product, whatever you're doing, if it's your small business, you're representing that, and it becomes part of your personal life too.
Oh yeah. It's you have to do what works for you. If you're a good writer, then publish blogs. If you're good at like personality stuff, you can do podcast, video, things like that. But there's an outlet.
I think you just call me personable is what you just did. So I'll take that. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome.
So we've done a lot of races together as well. So we've seen each other through some pretty nasty experiences and some pretty hot days, going through a lot of grueling, endurance type of situations, from marathons to Ironmans and half Ironmans. And those are tough situations to be in. So we've patted each other on the back quite a few times across the years. So
absolutely, seeing each other in those, tight outfits and ready to go. And
I can't do those tight outfits anymore. I don't know. You can, I think, and still do. I moved on a little bit.
Yeah.
So
bikes are
moved out, maybe.
Bikes are always the most fun, is spending money on a bike. So
yeah. And I like getting out on the trails now, so that's kind of one of my Zen moments. My friends right now are going to listen to this and go, yeah, you don't ride bikes like you used to. So I guess now I'm going to have to.
Yeah. I remember being at races and seeing you, and you were the guy everybody was chasing out on that bike. So
yeah, well, you eventually catch me because I wasn't the runner.
Yeah.
So
I ran when I was back then, junior high, middle school, and high school. So, I ran all that time, and also rode and raced bikes as a kid. So,
well, and the reason I mentioned that and transition to that conversation is because one of the things with the endurance sports is that consistency, and that finish line always in sight. Whether you're on that, whether you're in that swimming leg, That might be your strength, or maybe it's the cycling. For me, it was the cycling, or maybe it's your running background. Everyone has a different strength, but you play to that strength along the way. But you always have that end in mind, that finish line in mind. And sure, there's other people on the course with you. A lot of them are maybe your competition, but for you and I, it was never competing with each other. I mean, we're in the same age group and stuff, but it was just about, being part of that whole community. And it was exciting to be a part of.
Yeah, I volunteered for a while at Stray Rescue St. Louis that rescues a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
And the Haskins family of Sarah Haskins.
Oh, sure.
Her whole family was also volunteering. So that's where I actually originally learned the passion.
For those that don't know, Sarah Haskins is an Olympic, U.S. Olympic triathlete from St. Louis.
Yeah.
So pretty big deal.
Yeah, awesome. And like I was listening to, I met her, she spoke to a local triathlon club, and she's like, she's a pro. And like, I'd hear her talk about like, I've had panics in the beginning of the swim. I've messed up things. Yeah. And she always said, the big thing is you just move on and don't look back.
Right.
And somehow you end up winning when you just thought you lost the race. So,
well, and that's, I think, one of the cool things about being involved in running, triathlons, cycling events, professionals, Olympic athletes, the people that do this for a living, that, have marketing, sponsorship, all those kind of things, they're on the same course with people like you and I that are just out there making this our weekend kind of fun. And I think that's kind of a unique thing.
Yeah, it's fun because you can say hello, and literally some of them even wait at the finish line and greet in the last ones coming in at an Ironman event, which is awesome.
Oh, that's the best.
You're talking like 8 hours to 16 hours. So that means they're hanging out for 8 additional hours.
Well, and I know you and I know your style, and I've done this with you. So for those that don't know, an Ironman triathlon is 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and a marathon at the end. And it's all timed from one to the end. You have a 17-hour timeline. It ends at midnight. Or back in the day, it was midnight. Now it's changed a little bit because of how they do things with the 17 hours. But it was always, was my favorite thing. I wanted my own time to be my time, of course. But I told everybody, if this is your first event, you have to stay for that last finisher, because it is magical. And to this day, my memories aren't of me crossing the finish line. They're of watching others cross that finish line and just barely making that 17 hours.
Yeah, I've witnessed some just amazing things, people with disabilities coming through. The Agar family, I don't know if you've ever caught them, but I've had dinner with them, and they did Kona together, and it didn't quite work out how they hoped, but they did some other Ironman events, and pulling your son. And, when you don't really actually love triathlon and you admit that, but your son does, and you're doing it for him, it's a very magical moment. And that's a lot for a dad to commit to train for an Ironman when it's not your passion. So.
Yeah, because it's a big commitment. I mean, you're in the peak of it. It's 20 hours a week.
Yeah, so it's a commitment right up there with trying to start a business. I think it's like, as you look at that, and like, there's a lot of parallels from that standpoint. So
there really are, and we know a lot of folks that we did these triathlons and the endurance sports with that have successful businesses right here in the St. Louis area. So there are a lot of correlations.
Oh,
for sure.
I'm amazed at how many have businesses that a lot of them are super successful, and they give 100%, 110% on everything they do.
Yeah,
and that doesn't mean they're good at everything. I think you brought up a good point earlier. They're really good in certain areas, but they still have to fill some needs or find people to fill some of those gaps where they have weaknesses.
Well, and that's where experts come into play. You've got to know what you're good at. You've got to make sure you focus on those things you are good at, which is just like the marketing thing. You can't do something that is inefficient for you. If you are a good blogger, you should blog, just like you said, right? If you're not good with podcasts and things like that, that's probably not what you should be doing, because it will come across and it will be something that you will regret doing, or you'll push it off, and your time is better spent doing things that make sense for you. You know? So it's just part of it.
I remember my parents being called in when I was a kid in like grade school, and they got called into the principal because they said I inspired bad behavior. My dad's like, well, what has he done wrong? Well, he's encouraged other people to do things they're not supposed to do.
Nice.
And somehow that translated into a marketing business where I try to inspire people to do things. Hopefully not get in trouble anymore, but like
you've never inspired me to get into trouble. So, but now my compliance people are going to listen to this and go, I need to watch this from now on. Maybe. I don't know.
yeah.
Well, is that what did you always, I mean, from IT to marketing is not a common transition, I wouldn't think.
No, actually my wife was the marketing background. My dad was an entrepreneur, and, he sold his business at like 62, but he started in sales. And, I originally either wanted to work for the Federal Reserve or I wanted to get into pharmaceutical sales. And right as I graduated, I worked in a pharmacy in college as a pharmacy tech to network. And right as I was graduating, they were reforming the whole pharmaceutical industry and they were all getting laid off. And I was like, well, that didn't work. My degree's in economics. So I was like, Federal Reserve, like I'm actually really into the financial side of things a lot. So I was like, well, the Federal Reserve would be cool. And I interviewed, it didn't work out. But, and then through all those connections, I got connected into the software space. And I was like, this is good. And I think a lot of it was just the drive for people in that selling space in software. And I just liked that a lot.
Yeah.
And they were intense, fun, and just doing things that, as I talked with my grandpa, he was the chief engineer on the Harrier project, had 24 engineers under him. I explained software. It doesn't have to quite work right. They can fix it later. And he was explaining airplanes have to be built right because people die. So
yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense, right? So, you can't trust your life with a vehicle that's going to be up in the air and then all of a sudden fall down.
Yeah.
So,
and my dad, he had his own business. He started in sales and acquired the business, and then he exited. And so I always was curious about being an entrepreneur. He actually discouraged it a lot because of, like, I remember being in on Saturdays, like helping him clean the office, and he was doing stuff. I didn't quite understand that as a kid, but just what I knew. And I thought, well, hey, I'll give it a try. So.
Yeah. Well, I learned something every time I interview somebody. I know you very well. I've known you for years. And we do some work together also, but I did not know that you were a fellow economics geek. So there we go. Maybe that's something there was a reason I just always liked our conversations.
Yeah.
So.
I hear people talking about interest rates and the Federal Reserve, and I have strong opinions on it because my college career was that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's fascinating. There we go. Learn something new every day.
Yeah.
So, all right. So you are also a business owner with your significant other, your wife. So, trials, tribulations, how is that? Because it's always, it's tough to, and I'm the same way. Stacy is, you call our office, Stacy answers. It is not somebody that it is my wife. So I understand how that works. So how does that work for you guys?
It actually works out good. We have our separate roles. I would say the only thing that upsets my wife is she was the founder of the business and it started it, and she led it in the beginning. And then as we grew, I switched to leading it, and she does a lot of the account management. But the only thing that really upsets her is like when a salesperson calls and assumes that I was the founder. And as a female entrepreneur and founder, it was her.
Yeah.
Or they think she's my assistant. And I think that's the other thing that, because she's brilliant when it comes to marketing. So,
well, we all know there's an old adage, happy wife, happy life, right? So, yes, well, I introduced Stacy as the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah. I think that, I am a lot of ideas, but I need people to pull those together and execute them. I'm the guy that can walk by while they're brainstorming a logo for one of our clients, and I literally walked by, drew it, and walked away, and that's what it ended up being. But I couldn't have gone through without the team to execute and make it actually like pulled together.
Yeah, yeah. So what are some of the big trends going on in the marketing space today? We talked a little about changing dynamics with social media. Is that still the big thing going on right now?
It's AI.
Yeah,
Everything is AI.
Yeah.
And I mean, social media still has a presence, but for most businesses, like personal profiles on LinkedIn still have huge impacts, but like the business profiles don't have big impacts on LinkedIn, but ads do. And I mean, they know social media needs revenue sources. So they're going to do that. But AI and thinking about that and not using AI in a simple way, but I think it's using AI to inspire big ideas.
Okay.
Is where I see people being successful.
Because I see a lot of AI on the marketing side, and you can tell if it's an AI message. Like it's very transparent, and that turns me off.
Mm-hmm. I think people are using it effectively as trying to understand a concept or an industry really quickly, and you can get a snapshot of it. But I think using it for images, I think it's real obvious.
Yeah.
And I think letting it just write your content as is. People want to do business, like in your space, they want to do business with you, not with AI.
Yeah. Well, and AI can be a tool, but it's never going to replace an individual. And it's funny, I was actually at a marketing or a networking event, and I was talking to somebody about this. We were talking about AI and computers and, all the different technologies that they can do. And somebody actually mentioned that there's a robot now that they've programmed that runs off solar power that has the ability now to replace its own battery when it's low on battery, so that it never runs out of battery. And that's a perfect example of where we need to cut the cord on AI. We need to make sure we have the ability to change that battery. I want some human interaction. I've seen the Terminator. Yeah. I know what happens. Yeah. I don't need Arnold coming after me. You know,
we write social media posts for CEO of publicly traded companies and 10 executives at that company. And you use AI for something like that, it's not going to really articulate the mindset of helping them figure out like we've got to take statements and figure out how to position that correctly, and they got to review it. It's got to be authentically them. And AI is a great tool for getting the stuff quicker versus Googling and things like that and trying to get there. You can just figure out a little bit better where you need to go.
Well, it's very efficient in putting things out. And I think that what I've noticed in utilizing some of it from just when you stare at a blank piece of paper, it's intimidating. But when you start just writing down and jotting down and pulling in, hey, here's some of the things that I'm working on, here's some of the concepts, and now all of a sudden you're just writing bullet points, and then it starts to learn how you talk. And now all of a sudden you're not staring at a blank piece of paper. You're looking at something it's much easier to edit and tweak than it is to come up with something from scratch.
I agree. I think also just understanding when you're the most creative. Some people are creative at 5 a.m, others at 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But just don't go in there lost. Use it to start getting inspired, and then start going, okay, I'm thinking about this topic, whatever it is. If it's around retirement, end of the day, okay, I'm going to retire and I don't know what to do. At least use it for some exciting places to go visit if you've got the budget to do that.
There you go. I love it. Cool. Well, that is huge, giving some great advice on how to utilize AI in today's world because it is always changing. So, Scott, how can people get a hold of you if they need to engage in your services?
Our website is Kolbeco, KOLBECO.net.
Yeah.
That's probably the easiest way, and just reach out through that. You can see me on there. It's one of those things where we thought it was the end of the world when we couldn't get .com. I tried to buy it for 15 years and just finally gave up, and now it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. That way, so. Yeah, I always get talked about buying all kinds of .tax and .wealth or .whatever. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So. Well, Scott, thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it, bud.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Purpose and passion. I talk about it often with the folks I meet with. And in the business world, if you are a business owner and you do not share the pride, purpose, and passion you have in your business, it shows to your employees. And you know what? It shows in your community as well. Your customers want to see that pride, passion, and purpose each and every day. And if they don't see it, they're not going to be customers. They're not going to be around. They're going to be in a community that you're part of. They're not going to know you're existing. Or they're not going to support you because you do not have that pride, that purpose, that passion. It's a big deal. It is a big deal. So you got to make sure your strategy for branding and for marketing resonates with your brand as well. Okay. Not everyone's going to do a podcast radio show. I love it. I get to have this conversation with people and an audience all over the place. And it's a great little avenue that is fun for me to do. It is not for everybody. You got to find what makes sense for you. I get to enjoy conversations I have each and every day. I get to talk to business owners. I get to talk to retirees, pre-retirees, people that are trying to save for their financial future. But you know what? It's not just about numbers. I could talk about numbers, sure. That's part of my job. But really, it's what's behind those numbers that make a difference. It's what's driving us to want to have a good financial future, right? We want to make sure we can enjoy our goals, hopes, and dreams. It's really that simple. It is really making sure you can enjoy the lifestyle you deserve. We work too hard to make sure we do not have a legacy, a succession plan for business owners, a legacy that outlives us. And quite frankly, we want to enjoy today too. We want to enjoy today, but we want to make sure we also invest in the future. Our future deserves fun as well. We have to make sure we do a little bit of both. It all starts with a quick conversation. So come on in, have a quick, easy conversation about what's important to you, your goals, your hopes, your dreams. That's how you make sure you're on the right path to the financial serenity you deserve. Remember, serenity today, sanity tomorrow.
Serenity Now! This is Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper. Request a free copy of Chris's latest book, The New Holistic Retirement, by visiting SerenityWealthNow.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.